This is my review of the Ipega PG-9162 Nintendo Switch wireless controller. I bought this controller for $20 off Banggood, but I think the retail price is usually $25. It was the cheapest Nintendo Switch controller I could get that was also wireless, so I decided to give it a shot, and I'm doing a review now because I couldn't find any other information about it online. Ipega are better known for their smartphone controllers. This is the first time I actually see a console controller from them. So I'm going to do a quick unboxing and then I'll get into the features and my thoughts on the controller. So first up, the outside of the packaging. As you can see, it suffered a bit in the shipping, but the goods are intact. So they claim it supports playing games on in-switch console with 6-axis 6 gyroscope. Anyway, so let's get into it. Okay, so there it is with the user manual. Not much to look at there. And then the controller itself, and it also comes, as one would hope, with a USB to Type C cable, and yes, it does have a USB Type C port. So first impressions, this controller is really cute at first glance. The color scheme gives me Pikachu vibes and it has a simple, straightforward design that I actually quite like. It feels really solid when you pick it up. It has a really decent weighting to it, and it's got like this kind of matte plastic, which is pretty nice to hold. It is quite a bit smaller than a typical controller that you might be used to. For size comparison, here's an Xbox One controller. And yeah, it doesn't look too much smaller, but in your hands, this feels decent. Well, this feels really small. So immediately holding it, I can notice compared to the Xbox controller where there are nice grips at the bottom for your fingers to hold on to, this has no such thing. It's completely smooth. So that makes it feel kind of a bit loose in the hand, but it's really not so bad. I mean, it's quite fine to hold, really. All the buttons are easily reachable when you hold it. The only issue with reaching that I experience is when it's comfortably in my palms, my fingers are quite a bit far over the triggers and the LR buttons there. So for me to comfortably press those, I need to hold the controller a bit back like this, which is not ideal, but you get used to it. I mean, after playing for a while, this starts to feel normal again. As for the buttons themselves, they are really nice and clicky. They feel good. I would say compared to the Xbox controller, they are very similar in tactile feel. The LR buttons feel quite the same as well. The triggers feel very different though. These triggers are not analog triggers, as even the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con controllers don't come with analog triggers, so most games don't work with analog. These are strictly digital. The joysticks are quite a bit stiffer than say the Xbox joysticks or the Joy-Con joysticks, but they do have a nice rubber topping, which makes them really grippy. I actually really like using these joysticks. What I did notice using them is they have quite a bit of a dead zone in the middle, so if you want to slowly walk with your character, it can be a bit tricky to find that spot compared to a very sensitive joystick, but it's not so bad. You get used to it after using it. And then the D-pad. The D-pad feels okay at start, but once you use it for a bit, you will realize that it's not that great. It does misfire sometimes, I found, where you would push the button and you can actually hear it go down to the bottom, but it doesn't register. So you have to press it a bit harder than usual just to get it to actually register. It's not a deal breaker for me, but I can see for some people how that could be a big problem if you are really reliant on D-pads. In the middle you have the function buttons. There's a plus minus button, as you would expect for the Nintendo Switch. The home button's in the middle, which also acts as the power button to switch it on and off. Then there's the screenshot button and a turbo button for turbo function. I tried using the turbo function. I couldn't actually get it to work. I'm not sure if I was doing it wrong or something, but honestly, turbo function is a bit of a gimmick for me. Then the LEDs in the middle, it shows searching until it connects. Then it's like standard Nintendo Switch lights to indicate the player number. They start flashing when the battery gets low, and then if they're on charge, they also slowly flash until the battery is fully charged, where they stop flashing. It of course charges with USB Type-C, and you can actually use it while it's charging, which is nice. You can also use it in wired mode. So I tested that by putting the Switch in flight mode and connecting it via USB, and it worked. So it can definitely act as a pure wired controller as well. Having a wireless controller at this price point is really impressive. You don't really get wireless controllers at this price. The first time you use this controller, you plug it into your Nintendo Switch via USB. That pairs it with the controller, and then to use it, you simply press the button. It connects instantly, really quickly, and then you're good to go. It cannot wake the Switch from sleep, but that's something most third-party controllers cannot do. It's really only the Pro controller that was able to do it. Maybe one or two others, but that's not a function that's a big problem for me. It also doesn't have Nintendo's features like HD Rumble or NFC for Amiibo, but really you won't find those features on third-party controllers. Other features this have is if it's left on for a while, it will switch off by itself. I have found where I was trying to use it to play a game, and if I was taking a break for too long, it would just switch off by itself. But I actually don't mind it so much compared to the Joy-Cons, which I found stay on for way too long, and I would actually want to use my Joy-Cons and then they would be flat. I tested the latency of the wireless connection. It was not too bad. It's definitely a little bit worse than the Joy-Cons. Joy-Cons have very low latency. There was a little bit of a delay compared to it. Nothing major though. I would say that it's perfectly fine for everyday use. Especially for me, I like using this controller more than the actual Joy-Cons. I just don't like Nintendo Joy-Cons with the grip at all. Because you can use it in wired mode, the latency is then completely eliminated. It purely acts as a wired joystick then. And the battery claims, the packaging claims 8+ hours of battery life, and I have to say that's actually more or less what I got. I played about 9 hours of mainly Mario Odyssey and Zelda. It does have vibration, and especially in Mario Odyssey there was a lot of vibration going on. And yeah, it still lasted more than 8 hours, which I feel is actually more than enough time for a controller to last. Considering you can also charge it while you play wirelessly, maybe with a power bank or something, there's ways around it. Another thing is the controller does have motion controls. I was able to play Zelda and aim with my bow by using motion controls. Compared to the Joy-Con motion controls, it did feel a little less sensitive. The Joy-Con motion controls are very sensitive. You have to aim very carefully, which actually made this a bit easier to aim with. Then just for fun, I tested this controller with the included USB cable on my PC. And to my surprise, this controller registers as a standard Xbox controller on your PC. I couldn't get it to connect with Bluetooth to my PC, but using the cable, I was able to play Xbox mapped games with this controller. Obviously, the button mapping is different. They don't match up because A and B and X and Y is switched around on the actual Xbox controller. But yeah, for a backup PC gamepad, this also works, which is a very nice surprise. My final thoughts on this: I think it's an excellent controller for the price. In the $20 to $25 range, most controllers are pretty junky, and even finding a wireless one is very, very rare. Not to mention one with rumble and motion controls. I think this is a great bargain, especially for people like me. If you're maybe on a budget, you can't stand the Joy-Con controllers, this is an excellent option to get an actual nice controller in your hand to play some Nintendo Switch games. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like if you did, and enjoy all your gaming.